Hello, I'm Jose with Jose Lopez Jr. Photography, and I'm here to give you some tips, some ideas, and some concepts to help you take better pictures in the future. But first, I have one question for you. What is photography? By definition, photography is the application or practice of creating images using light. The word literally means light writing. So, why do you ask? Do I bring this up? It's my first tip. Light. It's one of the most important parts of photography, if not the most important. Be aware of the direction of the light, be aware of the intensity of the light. Try to figure out how to use the light to your advantage. That's really what it comes down to. Some concepts are as simple as figuring out if you want the light in front of you or behind you. It really comes down to also what equipment you're using. If you're using a phone, you're going to think of different ways to use it as opposed to a professional camera. You just have to understand where and how light is working for you or against you. Composition. So there's a lot of ways to go about this. Composition is one of those rules of photography, like many rules, that can be either bent or even broken, honestly. But you still have to understand how it works for and against you. One of the simplest ideas is the rule of thirds. It's breaking up the frame into 3 squares by 3 squares. And if you can kind of notice right now, I'm not in the middle of the frame. I'm a little off to the side and looking at the camera at a slight angle. It just looks a little more interesting that way, not as boring. But that's just a general guideline. It's not something that has to be set in stone, but it's something I thought about. It's kind of like if you're having dinner with a friend and you want to take a picture of your food, but do you want to just take a picture of the food on the plate, or do you want to include your friend in the photo? You know, it's just kind of an idea of thinking ahead of what you want to show in the photo. Settings. This is where a couple people get scared. And what I want to emphasize is you don't have to get out of autopilot or auto mode right away, and you don't have to go straight into manual mode. There's other features depending on what kind of camera you use or what your phone is. As for a professional camera, there's aperture and shutter priority that lets you kind of tweak some things, but not everything all at once. And for your phone, there's a lot of apps out there that allow you to tweak all the same different settings. And you know, that's the great thing about the digital age right now. You have so much memory at your disposal that if you mess up a photo, you can just kind of take one again. That's all it is. Playing with your settings allows you to learn the concepts of understanding your camera, and it just helps you make you better. You're not going to get better if you don't get out of your comfort zone with the camera, and that's really what it comes down to. Play with your settings, understand what happens when you change them, and then learn from it. And last but not least, what is your goal for the photos? Sometimes, like I've said before, it's just a simple idea of taking a photo of your food. And then for professional photographers, it's understanding a whole photo shoot, logistics, planning ahead for lighting and setting up a model. But it doesn't have to be that hard. You know, like I said, if you just want to take a picture of your plate of dinner with your friend, do you want to include your friend? Do you want to include a food? How close do you want to take a picture? You know, part of the composition. You know, it doesn't have to be that complicated, but when you get into bigger and crazier ideas, you do want to kind of plan ahead. You want to say, what am I trying to get a photo of? Is it a big landscape? Do I want to include trees? Do I want to include mountains? Do I want to include the beach? Or if it's a portrait, do you want to be nice and close, or do you plan to show off the entire person from far away? What is your goal? How do you want to plan for that? And then from there, you bring in everything else. What kind of lighting is going to be involved? What kind of composition do I want to create? What kind of settings do I need? That's how it all comes together. You have to plan ahead, create the idea, and then bring it all together with all the other ideas. Just keep keep learning, keep practicing, and maybe I'll see you out there sometime.